Tim Packer is a former police detective and a celebrated Canadian artist. He's the founder of the Tim Packer Art Academy and the author of You Can Sell Your Art. Welcome to the show, Tim.
Oh, thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. Tell us a little about your personal life, more about your work, and why you do what you do.
Okay, yeah, well, I guess right now I'm in my mid 60s, kind of living the dream. We just recently moved to our dream home up on Georgian Bay in the Great Lakes. And my work has kind of switched more now. It used to be focused entirely on painting, and now it's more focused on helping other artists actually make a living from their art and with my online art academy. And once a week, I host a live Zoom call, and I've got artists on there from around the world. And I critique their work, offer coaching advice, and answer their questions. And yeah, I'm pretty much just living a life way beyond my wildest dreams and very grateful for that.
So you are not a starving artist, Tim.
I am not a starving artist, and it has become my mission in life to dispel the myth that to be an artist, you must be a starving artist, and that somehow to not be a starving artist is somehow selling out. Yeah, I've made a very good living from my art. It's given me like an amazing life, and I also know a number of other artists who are also living very good lives from their art. And so, first of all, I want to get that message out to those who have that passion to create, that it's possible. And then the big thing is, well, how do you get there? And that has become my mission in life now.
Yeah, it's certainly one thing to enjoy art, to be able to create it, and then quite another to make it a sustainable career.
Yeah, and it's very much like becoming a professional athlete. You know, there's an awful lot of people who love to play various sports, and most people only kind of dedicate a certain amount of effort to actually becoming great at it. And we all kind of understand in sports that if you're just a really good hockey player, for example, well, you might be the best hockey player in your local men's league. But there's a big difference between that and actually making a living from it. And making a living from anything that people do as a hobby is much more difficult than making a living as an accountant. You know, there's not people out there doing accounting as a hobby, offering to give their accounting services for free. But there's millions of artists out there painting as a hobby and giving away their paintings or selling them at a very low price. And so the big thing that I want to get across to artists is that, you know, if you want to actually make a living as your art, from your art, like just being really good is not good enough. But here's the most important thing: becoming great is possible. It's all learnable stuff. It's all just about putting in the hard work, but then most importantly, knowing where to direct those efforts. Because you can put the most effort into anything. And if you're trying to ride a bicycle with your hands on the pedals, you're not going to go very far. So you need to know what to do. And I've been very fortunate that I've had a very successful life as an artist. But when I was in my teens, I gave up on the dream. I just realized I wasn't talented enough to make it as a successful artist. So gave up on the dream. Was tired of being a broke, tired of being depressed. The Toronto Police Force was hiring. And so I put an application in, and that led to an 18-year career on the Toronto Police Service. And just really totally 100% gave up on the dream. Wasn't painting, wasn't drawing. And then kind of a couple things happened that, as often does, that just threw a wrench into the whole thing. So one of them was tragedy, actually. Quite a bad tragedy. A good friend of mine, a young police officer, was killed in the line of duty.
Hmm.
And that was when I was in my mid 30s. And that just really hit me hard. You know, we all know we could die tomorrow. We all know that there's no guarantee. But my plan had been, after I gave up on the dream of being a police officer, I thought, okay, I'll do my 25, 30 years in the police force. Then when I retire, I'll get back to painting, and who knows, maybe I can make something of that. And then when my friend died, I just realized, you know, there's no guarantee on this time. And I'm sure there were all kinds of things that Billy had plans to do, and he was never going to get to them. And I just realized that, you know, I'm an artist. I've always been an artist, but I wasn't painting. And most of the people who knew me didn't even know that I was an artist. And I just realized, you know, that's who I am. That's what's important. I need to get back to painting. And so that was just kind of an epiphany that I just knew that I need to get back doing this now. Um, and then at the same time, for the first time in my life, really, I was kind of made aware of the growth mindset, the idea that, your talent is not something that is given to you or not given to you, and it's not something that's finite. It's just the sum total of your skills, knowledge, experience, and creativity, and that you can improve all these. And when I first heard this, I actually didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to believe it, because it's like, if that's the case, I gave up on my dream too soon. I didn't have the faith to kind of push forward. And then I also thought, that it was in an interview with a Canadian artist by the name of Harley Brown, and he actually said, he said, if you want to do this, if you want to make a career as an artist, he said, I 100% guarantee you'll be successful. He said, you just got to do the work. And I thought, well, to heck with you, Harley Brown. I know you're one of those gifted people, and you're one of those people that was sprinkled with the magic dust. And then they all say, "Oh no, it wasn't a gift. It was all just hard work." And I really almost kind of discounted that. And then, but a little voice in the back of my head said, "What if he's right? What if it is just about hard work? And what if I could really improve and kind of, and again, at this point, I wasn't even thinking about leaving the police force. I was just thinking about like maximizing my potential. And so I still didn't really believe in the whole growth mindset thing, but I thought, I'm gonna do an experiment. I'm gonna live my life for a year as though I believe it. And so then I sat down, and I'm a big planner, right? So I kind of came up with a plan. It's like, okay, I'm going to paint 3 times a week, and I'm going to schedule that time first so that it's not in my spare time, but it comes first, and I'll live my life around that. And then I also thought, even getting back into painting, it's like, we all have things that we know we're not good at. I was horrible at composition, and not that good at drawing. And so I thought, I'm actually going to make myself focus on those. What are the things that would have the biggest impact on my art that I know I need to improve on? And let's just focus on doing those and making them strengths. And so I did that for a year. And by the end of that year, my work had got dramatically better. I'd been accepted in a number of juried shows and won a few awards. People were starting to buy my work. And then within three, and by the end of that year, I just knew, okay, I guess this stuff's real, right? And then within 3 years, I'd been elected to a couple of national arts organizations. I'd been in some major shows. I was like busier than I wanted to be painting portraits. And my wife and I just had the conversation about, it's not about if you leave the police force, it's when. And it was 1999 with the new millennium coming. So we decided, wow, this is the time to do it. So at the end of 1999, I quit my job, cashed in my pension, walked away from a steady paycheck to pursue my art career. And that's after almost 20 years in the police force. That was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. I woke up in a number of nights in a cold sweat, just thinking, "Oh my God, what have you done?" Um, and I didn't know how to make a living as an artist, and so there was a lot of mistakes, a lot of failures. Luckily, again, being elected, I was elected to the Canadian Society of Painters and Watercolor, and was invited onto the board fairly early on. Turns out, not because I had any specific art knowledge, but because I was a young guy who was big and strong and worked out. And there's a lot of physical work that goes into uncrating paintings, hanging shows. They saw me and went, "Oh wow, this guy can lift a lot."
Come on in, buddy.
Um, but the great thing was that I eventually did contribute a lot otherwise. I ended up serving on the board for 10 years. I did a 2 year stint as vice president, 2 years as president, and I got to rub shoulders with people who were living the dream, who were where I wanted to be. And I was just a sponge. I just kind of picked their brains, looked at what they were doing, and asked a lot of advice. I had this group of mentors around me, that just, yeah, so that within by 2005, I guess again I was still kind of struggling, and in 2005 I kind of developed my voice that I'm known for now, which is kind of, paintings of the Ontario and Quebec landscape with the sun coming through the trees. And within a couple of years of that, I was making over $100,000 a year from my art. And then just was, going in my studio, painting every day, shipping work off to the galleries, just really living the dream and thinking, that's it, I'm done. Like, I'm just going to ride this pony for the rest of my life. And then in 2015, I was at a show in Toronto in a very upscale gallery, and it was like the Walt Disney version of an artist kind of achieving their kind of pinnacle. It was the gallery closed at 5 in the evening and was going to reopen at 7 for the show. And so I was in the front of the window of the front of the gallery, right on the main street painting. And so people could see me as they walked by. And as I got closer to 7, people started lining up. And by the time the show opened, it was literally lined up down the street. The doors opened, people rushed in. There was someone playing live music. Waiters were walking around with trays of drinks, and the red sold stickers were just going up on the paintings. And this had been a really, really good year already, and I kind of knew where I was. And so, anyways, as I saw the sold stickers going up, I kind of mentally crunched the numbers, and I realized I'm going to make over $250,000 this year from my art, which was so far beyond what I was going for. I thought if I could ever make what I would make on my pension, which would have been about 50 grand a year, I thought that would be good. And so I kind of basked in the glow just for a couple minutes. And then I had this other feeling kind of descend on me that wasn't all good. And at first I thought it was maybe guilt, right? Because I know the whole starving artist thing that's out there, and I know most artists are struggling. But then I realized it wasn't guilt, it was responsibility. Because I just remember thinking how like this was the dream and I'm living it. And I know so many artists that have that same dream who aren't experiencing it. And I know there are millions of people out there that share that dream but don't know how to get there. And I realized I know how I got here. Like I wasn't naturally gifted. I was not the top in any of my art classes, but I knew there were certain things that I did that got me to this level. And I thought, if I share what I know, I can help a lot of other artists achieve that same sort of thing. So the next day, I went, I just made that decision. I'm going to start a YouTube channel and I'm just going to share everything I know for free on YouTube. So I went down to the photography store, the big store in Toronto, and I dropped $25,000 in equipment because that was unfortunately before our smartphones were where they are now. So like professional cameras, lighting, kind of sound, the whole thing. And I started putting my YouTube content out there. And I just assumed, look, I've got all this great stuff. Like people are just going to come to it, right? Like if you build it, they will come. And as I know you know too, if you're on, that's not the case. It's a very crowded place with a lot of noise. And so, I mean, it did okay. After about 5 years, I had about 3,000 followers. And I would occasionally get emails from artists who, they'd email me to say, like, I just quit my job and I'm actually doing well. And I've been following all of your advice and just thank you so much. But it was really just a side a passion, really. I wasn't doing it for any money. I didn't expect to get any money from it. I just wanted to do it to give back. And then I had the opportunity to mentor a young artist who was the daughter of a friend of mine, and her name's Brooke Cormier. And some of your viewers may know her. She's like a social media superstar now. She's got like over 1 million followers on social media. She's living in Vienna now. Her work sells all over the world. But within the first year of me mentoring her, she was able to make $30,000 from her art. And then within the second year, her work was selling for more than mine. And we also, when I agreed to mentor her, I said I would do that if she was willing to have our sessions filmed. So we filmed all of the sessions, and thank God we did. So people can see that now, her entire progression from this young kid who was terrified that she disappointed her parents because after graduating as a landscape architect, she said, I don't want to do that. I want to be an artist until right up till, like I say, now she's just kicking it. Um, and then in 2019, again, the world threw another wrench in. I got Graves' disease, and twice I almost died in 2019. And so both times, kind of lying on a gurney in the hospital bed with my wife, not knowing if I was going to see the next day. And kind of two things that happened out of there that were really transformational for me. The one was that while I was lying there, really not sure if I was going to be here in 5 minutes, the feeling that came over me more than anything was gratitude. I was just like, it's like whoever's up there, whatever's up there, thank you. This was a life so far beyond what I'd hoped to achieve, and everything that I'd really wanted to achieve, I had. Now I knew, again, I was sad and I still have more to do, and it's going to be hard on my wife and my boys, but it's like no regrets. And I just thought, wow, that's the way you want to approach your impending death. And for many people, it's probably not going to be that, right? And then over the course of the next year, I was sick for quite a while. The two near death things happened about 7 months apart. And after the second one, and during that time, I realized I did have one regret, and that was that I'd still been really focusing on my art, just cranking out more paintings, making lots of money, and doing the teaching as a side passion. And you can even find YouTube videos of me saying I'm never going to charge for my teaching because I want to make my money off my rich clients, not off the backs of struggling artists. And then during that year, I just realized the one regret that I'd had was that I hadn't put everything I had into the teaching, into sharing what I'd learned, and kind of did a little bit of research, did quite a bit of research, and realized a few things. Realized that if it's free training, people often don't take advantage of it. People are much more likely to finish stuff and invest in it if they've invested cash in it. I also realized that after this was just as COVID was coming in, everybody now was becoming familiar with this, what we're doing here right now with Zoom, and that the online teaching was becoming a multi-billion-dollar industry. And so I just realized, I had kind of an epiphany that, my focus is going to shift from painting to teaching. And I also knew the only way I could do that was to create a successful business. And I got over I guess the guilt or the hubris of thinking, oh, I'm only going to do it for free, right? It's like, it's not a bad thing to do it as a business. And the more successful I can be at it, the more people I'm going to be able to help. So that was in 2020. We launched the Tim Packer Art Academy. And we just this summer crossed over $500,000 in sales of my courses. And I've just written a book and coming out with a book that kind of encapsulates everything in my courses about how artists can actually make a livable income from their art.
What a story. What a
It's a
story.
it's a long one. It's a lot of turns.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really exciting though, because there are so many people who do love art and feel connected to it and want to be creative, but have it, I appreciate so much that you need to approach it from a very business-like perspective and not just dip your toe in the water if it's going to become successful, and have people around you that you can model and you can learn from and can help you avoid a lot of those common mistakes.
Yeah, for sure. And the biggest thing I want to get across to people too is that whole idea of natural talent as some sort of magical gift. It's like it just there are some people, yes, who have more kind of natural aptitude, but the tortoise and the hare has been around for thousands of years because it's like, yeah, someone might have more natural aptitude, but nothing beats sustained effort directed in the right place over time. And I know all kinds of people who had much more natural talent than I did, who ended up giving up and weren't successful, but they gave up um, just because it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? Like people want that quick success. And I also think too, if you're a bit of a grinder, you have an advantage because by the time you get where you catch up to the people who were more naturally talented, you have a lifetime of just a work ethic and knowing you have to sweat blood for every single gain you make. Whereas those people who are naturally talented, they just get by on that up until the point where now it gets tough, and it's pretty tough at 30 to develop a work ethic and to develop that kind of grit, right? Whereas, like I say, I consider myself a grinder, but that grit has never left me. And it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I know it's going to be hard work. And it's just, okay, then roll up your sleeves. Let's just get to work. What do I need to learn? What do I need to improve? And knowing it's going to be hard, but at the end, it's going to be worth it.
Amen, brother. Well, Tim, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more about you? How can they take advantage of the course? And where can they get their copy of You Can Sell Your Art?
Yeah, they can go to www.timpackerartacademy.com, and they can sign up. If they just give me their name and their email, I'll send them 5 free chapters from the book. And if they like the book, they can then purchase it. And they can also see my courses there. So I have a number of courses, right from just, one basic kind of course on color and composition that you just buy and you have it. And then I also have an online community, my Hungry Artist program, where you get all of my courses plus all of my future courses, but where we also meet once a week. And that's where I critique artists' work, answer their questions, and give them coaching advice.
Excellent. Well, if you enjoyed this as much as I did, show Tim your appreciation. Share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. And certainly that friend who is an artist and has a passion for it, but hasn't necessarily put it all together yet. Go to timpackerartacademy.com. Check out the great resources. Uh, Take advantage of the 5 free chapters of his book. And if you are, in fact, somebody who wants to make art your career, check out the Hungry Artists group and take advantage of everything that Tim is offering. Thanks again, Tim.
No, you're welcome.
Until next time, remember, do your part by doing your best.